Department of Employment and Labour is concerned about illegal recruitment practices in South Africa. This includes the hiring of undocumented immigrants. This as the debate about the unemployment crisis and the ratio of foreign to local workers is in the spotlight. The department plans to announce new rules for foreign workers soon. Well, let's unpack this with Loren Landau from the African Center for Migration and Society and the International Labour Organization's Theo Sparreboom. Thank you for joining me, gentlemen. I appreciate your time. Loren, I'll ask the same question to the both of you, but let me start with you, Loren. What's your sense here? There's a bit of a focus on the employment of foreign nationals, particularly in sectors such as the restaurants, etc., after the visit by Julius Malema, and also this talk by politicians about the need for more stringent enforcement of laws governing that aspect of our lives. Where does the problem stem from, if there is a problem to even speak of at the moment?
Thank you. I think what we're looking at here is really a symbolic gesture from the department. There are already fairly strict both employment and immigration rules, which limit the number of people who can work in these spaces. The issue has never been the rules. The issue has been enforcement from the Department of Labor or potentially from the Department of Home Affairs. So what they're really signaling here is not something new, but rather a recommitment to trying to regulate foreign workers in the South African labor market. I think the broader question is, why are they doing this? And it's clearly a populist move. It's clearly an effort to distract from the fact that they do not have positions which are creating jobs for South Africans. So they're instead trying to put the blame on foreigners.
Theo, what's your sense? Do we have a migration problem, or do we have a labor law problem, or actually the situation as it is optimal? All we need to do is to walk walk the talk in as far as the systems we've set up.
Thanks very much for this opportunity, and good afternoon again. I think the statement that came out of the Department of Employment and Labour signaled several things. And the first point is, I think that the main thrust from the point of view of the ILO in international labour law and ILO conventions is that foreign workers should be treated on equal footing with South African workers. That is one of the main points, for example, of ILO Convention 143 on migrant workers. This was also emphasized in the statement of the Department of Labour, and also in recent interviews from the Minister of Labour. The rights of all workers within South Africa are enshrined in the Constitution, and labour laws accord in principle the same standards and rights to citizens as well as foreign nationals employed elsewhere in the country. That is one point. And a second point that I would like to make immediately is the current drive of the Department of Labour to basically improve labour migration policies in the countries can be seen in the context, I think, of what is happening in the sub-region in SADC. In the international context, and this international context is also mentioned in the statement of the ministry, all countries in SADC are committed to develop explicit labour migration policies. And in the case of South Africa, the country has been working for a while now on the formulation of a new labour migration policy. And if I understand it correctly, if the draft is approved by Cabinet, then in the coming month, that labour migration policy will be made available to the country at large for consultations. The ILO has been supporting the ministry in the formulation of this on this policy, providing specific inputs. I know other social partners in South Africa are also working on their positions with regard to labour migration. So what I think is important to emphasize also in this context is the international context, that labor migration is an issue that is of increasing importance for South Africa, but also for the other countries in the region. And the discussion about these policies should, I think, to a large extent, be taken place at that level, at the international level. Yeah. At the level of SADC, there is a labor migration action plan, and South Africa is committed to implement also that action plan together with other countries. And I think that what the Department of Labor is doing at the moment should be seen in that context.
Right. Theo, thank you for that context. Let me tease out one aspect that you raised. Let me stick with you for a moment there, Theo. One of the contentions you make, rightly so, is that foreign nationals who work in South Africa and are resident in South Africa should be treated on an equal footing with South African workers in the sectors where they are employed. In a context where someone who's undocumented is employed in South Africa, what's your experience as the ILO? Do you get a sense that that doesn't happen, and it's precisely why undocumented workers are preferred in some industries simply because they can be exploited?
This issue has been highlighted, and for sure it is happening, and it is a major risk for the. Firstly, it is an illegal practice if you exploit a vulnerable worker who is in a vulnerable situation to offer substandard conditions, and I think that is the main issue in this context. It is an illegal practice, but it also raises tensions in the labor market, and it can encourage xenophobic sentiments. And in that case, it is very important to actually enforce the current legislation in South Africa. I think that is of major importance. Another aspect that I would like to highlight in this context is, which has also been highlighted many times by the ILO, labor migration should be based on needs of countries. It should be instrumental for countries. Labor migration policy should be informed by facts, by solid information. Again, in the context of SADC, we are supporting the establishment of a labor market observatory in the region. That observatory will provide solid information that can actually inform the labor migration policies and inform where labor migrants are needed in each country at a sub-regional basis.
Loren, from your perspective, is this driven by populism of politicians thumb-sucking what policies they believe the population in South Africa want to see, or do you believe that this is based on their correct reading of sentiment of the South African population, and therefore they are merely responding and saying, actually, if you South Africans want us to be more stringent about who can come into the country, who can take up what positions, issues of quotas, critical skills lists, etc., therefore, if that's what you, the people, want as your representatives, that's exactly what we will give you. I know it's a bit of a difficult question to answer, but what's your sense?
Well, my sense is what the South African people want is better labor conditions, and they want more labor in the sense that they want more jobs. And there are questions about whether what South Africa is proposing will produce either of those. I think there's an underlying sentiment which says that foreigners are taking jobs. But I think what government needs to do is create jobs and create better labor conditions. And I do not think that what they're proposing now is really part of that. I think it is a emotional political statement. I think underlying some of this work is an effort to think through what skills does South Africa need, how do we promote investment. But unfortunately, with the message that's coming across is not we're here to create new jobs and to improve labor conditions. It's really we're here to take foreigners out of the labor market, and that is going to solve your problems. And I think that's a short-term populist gesture that's unlikely to really address the fundamental concerns that have plagued South Africa for years.
And if I stick with you then, Loren, how important is it that government takes the lead, as the Department of Labour and Employment seems to be doing in this conversation, given the plethora of voices that could potentially take the lead? We've seen the full spectrum of those that believe that, foreign nationals are the source of all our problems. We'll meet them at the border. They must be leaving. To those that are saying, no, it's not foreign nationals that are a problem. It's your government failing to create jobs and employment, and therefore causing you to have friction with fellow Africans in particular.
Well, I think it's absolutely central that it is government that takes the lead in ensuring labor conditions are right, whether it's in mines, whether it's in restaurants, whether it's in high-tech industries. I think it's also up to government, those who are elected, those who have the official mandate, to enforce those standards wherever they are. It's not political parties who should be doing it. The political parties should be helping the government to address these issues through policy. Whether it's the Department of Labor alone, I would doubt. It should be Department of Labor together with Trade and Industry, together with Home Affairs, together with the President's advisors, should be thinking through what direction are we going in the country? What do we need to do to create jobs that are good and can support poor South Africans?
Right.
And what is the immigration's role in that? Unfortunately, they're putting the cart before the horse and trying to solve their problems through immigration rather than through broader economic or labor reforms.
All right, gentlemen, I've got to thank you for your time and your inputs. It's a critical conversation. We've started it, and I'm pretty sure that we'll continue to have it. Loren Landau there from the African Center for Migration and Society, as well as Theo Sparreboom from the labor, who is a labor migration specialist at the International Labour Organization in South Africa.